Hello, fellow sailors and Eldorian members. This is the Admiral. This is gonna be a tutorial on how to draw. So welcome to How to Draw with the Admiral. We'll give you the basic warship design. Now, I know most of you want to draw your own kind of warships, and I respect that. I draw my own warships actually, as you can see in the thumbnail. I will be showing you how to draw them both online and on paper, though I'll mainly be leaning towards those who draw online. But if you're gonna draw online, what I'm using is an iPad and an Apple Pencil, and the app I'm using is Adobe Fresco. I think it's on PC too. If you have it on PC, then you're fine, but just make sure you have a good grip on your mouse, and yeah, just make sure grip your mouse correctly, and then just try and draw as best as you can. If there is on PC, get the ruler. This will be important later on. For those who are drawing on paper and pencil, you will need a sheet of paper. I'm just using this PNG as reference. You'll need a sheet of paper, a ruler to draw mainly the decks and usually the bottom. You'll need a pencil, of course, and an eraser. Optional items are colored pencils if you want to actually draw and color in the ships, and pen if you like to do outlines. I will recommend you would get a reference ship of whatever you're drawing. But anyways, let's begin. To start off, you're gonna need multiple layers. There's a reason why we need multiple layers. So anyways, starting off, get your ruler. You're gonna make sure it's flat. I will let you know if you're using any other art website or anything to make your own ships, you can click off this video. But if you just want to keep watching, you can go ahead. Make sure to use this brush right here, the vector brush. Have it set to size 3.5 or 4.5. We'll go with 4. We're gonna draw a flat line, and that is something you can do for the deck of the ship. Either you can do that, or another way, which most of the time I draw my boats, have it like that, but then you go at an angle, I'd say around 132 degrees if you're drawing it with the bow facing starboard or right. Have it diagonal like that, and then you draw, and you just keep going. We'll have it like this at our base. Then for the bow, there are different ways you can draw your bows. You can draw them like, you can draw them like that, with the bottom being like that. You can draw it old dreadnought style. This is what I call the old dreadnought style. This is the kind of pattern I see like on the Arizona, like that. You can draw it slanted, like pretty slanted like that, like you see on the Arleigh class destroyers or Ticonderoga class cruisers. You can go what I call the Iowa design, where I see ships designed like that, kind of like what you see on the Iowa class battleships. But really, your basic one is gonna be this curve alongside down, like that. You can design your bows in any way, but those are the ones I know. You can come up with any other ways, but those are the main ones. I mean, hell, I've seen people draw their bows like this. Oh, my bad. Oh, come on. right here. I've seen people draw them like that. It looks a little weird, but I don't blame them. But anyways, once you have your bow drawn, make sure it is going to be in scale with the rest of the hull. Like you see here, I made it pretty small. So what I'm going to do, take that sort of same design and then just make it bigger. So it should be in scale. Once you got your desired bow, you're going to take your ruler, then you're going to draw flat all the way towards the end. Once you get closer to the end over here, you stop, and then you can try and angle it. This is where your propeller is gonna be. Then you would make your ruler straight, have it like that. Your stern, you can design it any way as possible. Kind of like this. The sterns, from how I see them before, they are sometimes drawn like that. I've seen these before, I think on a French destroyer from World War II. They would have depth charges in the back and they would just roll off. Kind of like that. Anyways, moving on. Then, that's your hull design. Next, you're going to draw your waterline. This is going to be important because this is to know where you'll have to draw and fill in for either the red hull on the bottom and your any colors for your upper hull or camo. Like that, but I recommend making it thicker, but we'll just leave it like that for now. For the propellers, we'll make a basic rudder design and a basic propeller design. So what you're gonna do, you can take your ruler, you can go down like that, then you can just draw like that, and just make basically one small rectangle and one big rectangle. That is the basic design of a rudder, in my opinion. For propellers, it's gonna be a bit challenging, especially for boats. So what you're gonna do, draw 2 parallel lines. Then you're going to make it kind of like one side of an oval. It may look concerning. I know it may look concerning, but just trust the process. Erase any of the excess. Then you have that. What you're gonna do now, you're gonna draw a little curve to show the golden part of a propeller. Then you try and draw equal sized propeller blades. Now I just draw them in half ovals like that, and that is your basic propeller design. It's okay if you mess it up. If you're online, you can just hit this. You can always just undo. If you're doing it on paper, you can always just erase. Now if you want extra details like things holding onto the propellers, you can just draw little things like support beams, support structures to hold on to it. But we'll leave it as is for now. Now, remember how I said we needed multiple layers? Here's the reason why. Because in older ship designs I made in the past, I all did it in one layer. And the problem is, I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be able to individually paint and customize each thing without it affecting everything else. So what I'm trying to say is, let's say I was trying to design a gun, right? Like that. And then I was trying to build a superstructure in a basic design like that. Have torpedoes over there. Have that. Gun, radar, gun, AA gun, AA gun. If I had something like that, and let's say I were to color it in, I don't know, a gray, it would affect everything else except whatever you were trying to draw. That is not gonna be very good. So the reason why we have the double layer is so you can have one layer be for hauling camo and the other one to draw your superstructure, and then you can make other layers for your guns. Now looking at it from here, this is a good start. Now our prop over here is a bit small, but it's okay, we can always just fix that. So what we can do, you can tweak your hull to make it look a lot more neater and to have more leverage for your propeller blades. Now I will extend the blades. It's not gonna look perfect, that's okay. Drawing doesn't have to be Leonardo da Vinci like or Picasso. It's fine if it's a bit small, but that, hey, we are learning. And this is just a basic design. You can always just use reference to customize all of your ships and such. Like, I may have made this too small, but in actual pictures, I actually use actual reference and they would come out as good results. Just know, make this a little bigger as it would make sense more when you come up with the final results. Now on to making a second layer. Have it like that. We will draw a basic superstructure design. You can look up some references online. Like for instance, I'm using the HMS King George V as my reference. As you can see here, how the propellers are in scale. This is not in scale. So what we can do, you can use your reference as a build guide essentially. Use it as like a tutorial to help you make your ship look sizable and makes a lot more sense. You can just extend the rudder. And you can move the section where the rudder will turn a little further up on top. And then you can just have it like that. You can always just crop down your rudder any design you like. And this is your warship. I do not control what it looks like. Oh, do not make that mistake. And if you saved, you did it like that, game over. But if you did it on paper, you can always just redo it and rewatch the tutorial. Make sure it's in scale. Alright, that's a little better. Maybe this time we can extend the parallel lines to be a lot longer than before. Have something like that. Propeller blades up like that. And I'd say it's a lot better than before. And this is just a tutorial. I've already drawn other ships before. So for your reference ship, make sure to keep it on the side, or you can turn on its layer opacity. And you can have it in the background being spooky and phantom-like. So with your second layer, you can draw your superstructure. Now, this is already a battleship structure design. I'm drawing a basic destroyer type. So usually, Some destroyers will have a gun placement of one gun over here and then something on top and then another gun like that. Sometimes, like Japanese destroyers, they'll have one gun, superstructure, and then beyond, and yada yada. We will do a reference kind of like the King George V, but for destroyers. For the basic superstructure design, you're gonna have to think, where will your guns be? Sometimes I like to label A, B, C, D, and E. Sometimes you do that, but I just wing it with my eyes. You can always just make edits whenever you like. For basic superstructure design, you can either have it straight, like that, or you can have it diagonal, like the Takao class. Though I would make sure you have it kind of like that, not that way. But to keep it for simplicity, we will do straight. If you plan to put a second turret right next to turret 1, you're gonna have to extend it like that, and then drop down like that. Now I'm not gonna make it fully perfect. This is just a tutorial on basic warship designs. Now once you get to here, you can erase this if you're doing this design. But if you have it just straight line, don't erase it. Next, you're gonna have to draw your bridge. Now, not a bridge where you walk over, like in those fantasy movies. What I meant by bridge, that is where the captain, the helmsman, and all the important people, that's where they're stationed. So what you're gonna do, once you flatten it out like that, you're gonna draw the same thing like what you did with your main superstructure hull, but make it smaller and flatter like that. You can add a top like this, which proves to be really helpful, and it's actually pretty useful in most cases. For designing windows, use a different color. For my ships I use purple, but in this case we will use blue. You can make different window sizes, but keep it in scale on how big the people you have. So we will go in scale with, I'd say that big. And then you would draw a door roughly the same height. Kind of like that. Smiley face. Depending on who you have, I know some people have demons and spirits for some odd reason. Ghosts, skeletons, zombies, whatever crew you have, make sure it scales with them. Goblins, just draw a little doggy door. Unless they are supersized. Usually on top, there would be a radar. Now, I am not the best at drawing radars, but I will give a close-up mock-up of what we can get. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna draw a sort of rectangle, square-like shape. It looks like a square, but some of its areas like here are like super rounded. Now it may look big here, and it is, but you don't have to make it in scale, but I recommend put it in scale so you don't have weird proportions like here. Like that's how big the radar is. And plus, these are really, really big ships, some getting over 800 feet long. I think the USS Gerald R. Ford is over 1,000. So you'd have to imagine how many people are going to be on that radar. Now you can always just draw people to scale. Like let's say this is little Jimmy. Now their feet are being covered by the bridge. So that's how tall it would be. Or you can just have it like that. That's fine with me, and that's fine with you. Anyways, back to the radar. Then you'd want to draw a little detail icon here, and then just basically add detail, whatever, to your radar thing. Little door for no reason. But whatever the shoe fits, whatever fits for you, it's good for you. Then, not all ships are complete without their masts. Those long tower, telephone pole looking things. You're gonna have to draw a big parallel line. Don't draw it too tall, or to get something kooky result. You're gonna cap it off like that. Draw something like that. Erase whatever's inside of that. Then, what's next? Sometimes you can draw a little crow's nest looking thing for people on top. And you can always just add extra details to make it look swag and whatever design you want. And you can add extra posts and fortifications up like here. This will be your whatever mount for anything. It can be missiles, it can be AA guns. I mean, heck, it can even be another gun. I mean, have you seen on the King George V? It looks similar to over here. Anyways, back on topic. To draw smokestacks, they're actually simple. You gotta draw... You draw them like how you're doing the superstructure for the bridge. But this time, you're gonna have to cap it with a curve like that. And it's gotta be thicker than the rest of the platform. Of the smokestack. Like that. And you would color it in like that. And then you have a basic smokestack design. And you can make as many as you want. You can go 2, 3, 4. I've seen people do 7. I don't know why you would have 7 smokestacks on your thing, but whatever the shoe fits. Then, sometimes, if you want to draw torpedoes, like this destroyer will have torpedoes. It's kind of simple. It's a bit complex, but trust the process. 2 parallel lines, or close to parallel. Then you're going to draw a line going all the way down. Depending on what caliber you're going to use, you're going to have to balance it. Like, for example, I'm just winging it, honestly. Because for your own military, you have your own calibers. Like, my torpedoes are going up to 700 millimeters. And I call them anti-ship torpedoes. Alright, next you're gonna flatten this side. Or if you're drawing it the other way, you want to flatten this side. Or if you flatten both sides, but on the side where the torpedoes are going to launch, you can either draw a cap or the actual torpedo warhead itself. For the cap, you draw it like that and have a little hinge over here, because how I would imagine for my navy, it would open like that, and then there's your torpedo. If you're doing non-capped and just have the torpedo sticking out, just add a little thing right there, or make sure it's in scale first of all. Like, have that in front of the torpedo. And that looks like the little propeller thingy that would be on the torpedoes. But for now, we're just drawing it as a cap for the torpedo warhead. Then I usually see little details where you draw it up over here. I forgot what it was called. If you can leave it down in the comments, maybe you can let me know. I mean, it's pretty late at night, as you can tell, this is white time. Then sometimes you can draw another smokestack or another torpedo tube, but it depends on how much space you're gonna have. So for now, we'll go with an all-gun, mostly an all-gun destroyer. Kind of like the, I wouldn't say the Shimakaze, but I know there are some Japanese destroyers that favor more guns than torpedoes. Sometimes you can... Actually, once I finish that... Sometimes you can have structures like that. Sometimes you can have extra mass, if you want, with more radar pickets and all that. If you so desire it. And alright, so sometimes some ships will have depth charges, mainly frigates, corvettes, destroyers, light cruisers, heavy cruisers sometimes if they're daring, but usually it's destroyers and smaller boats. So let's say this destroyer is gonna have depth charges. I'll try and draw like a box or a cube-ish design like that. And to draw depth charges, have an oval, kind of basically drawing a cylinder like that, and then just draw like that. And then if you want extra details as like to hold them on while they're going through rough seas, you can draw chain links on them as they won't get away. Or you can draw K-gun racks, which I think are like this. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or you can draw depth charge racks, which are pretty easy to draw. You can draw basically just ovals all the way going down towards the stern. Depending on how much you want. You can draw hedgehogs, which, not Sonic the Hedgehog, mind you. I'm not gonna draw it on the boat itself. Basically, they are a type of anti-submarine weapon. It was developed and was used by British, American ships. And it's actually used on a tank. Or I think they call it the Matilda Hedgehog. Don't know if it served in it, actually. I know it's because of War Thunder. Just draw a rectangle like that. I'm not the best at drawing little mortars, but if I had to guess, you can just draw them like that. Okay, it looks concerning. It looks concerning, but this is how I think of them. Unless I think they have like a shaped charge, like a Piat. Maybe. Now, I'm not drawing anything that's gonna get me canceled. I don't want to get smited by the hand of YouTube. That's what I think of a hedgehog. If I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong. I mean, just look it up. That's what I think they look like. Oh god, I'm actually getting old. Anyways, so that's your basic superstructure design. Now, the hardest thing to draw, or besides cranes and lifeboats, actually, we'll get these done. For the cranes, well, I usually don't see them that much on destroyers, honestly. I'll put them on the side for now. For cranes, you can just do a simple pull up and then have something like that. Connecting, get out your hook and whatever. I'm not the best at drawing things construction related, so that's a bummer. You can draw lifeboats if you want. Now, I don't draw basic rowboats that good. That's just a mock-up of what I got. And some ships, I know, like light cruisers, heavy cruisers, battleships, they're going to carry aircraft catapults. So what you're gonna do, take your ruler or your pencil, whatever, you're gonna draw like that. And then you're gonna draw or make a very dark line like that. And you can, this is where cranes actually come to play, where they would be towards the end, and then you can draw your plane or whatever you want on there. That's not part of the topic for this ship. But yeah, if you want, you can draw those. Just usually use reference. That's the key advice if you want to make cool looking ships. Use reference from video games, real life, fiction. I've seen my friend make his navy based on Sea of Thieves. That's actually pretty cool. But now I think the hardest thing to do is drawing the guns. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna either make a new layer, or if you're drawing on paper and pencil, you're gonna have to be really careful now. Well, careful if you're using pen. I wouldn't recommend drawing ships with pen. If you're drawing with pencil, it's fine if you make mistakes or not. But anyways, oh, I forgot to mention, for your thing, you can draw your flag. So you can just make a random flag, put them up there. Don't make it too big. Don't want it to be like an 80-foot long banner. For the guns, alright, so we're gonna use reference from these from the King George V. Mainly their secondaries. So what you're gonna do, I'll put it down on the gun, like where the base will be, especially for those drawing on paper. You're gonna draw your line, or wherever your starting point and end point is gonna be. You could have it the front angled or straight, or you can have it curved like that. But for now, we will go with slanted. I know this is not going based on the King George V, like I said, but this is your ship, your design. You can make whatever. I'm not gonna stop you. Unless you're drawing something that looks stupid. Like a warship design, like, that looks like a... oh, you know what. Then that's where I cross the line in ship drawing. You would... alright, for the back of your gun turret, it's gonna either be slanted or straight. Usually the top will be like that. You can add extra details if you want. Maybe little side things over here. Maybe this can be like a... like, maybe this area can be like where the gunner sits and all that. And then, to draw the gun itself, just draw 2 parallel lines. Now, to go on based on realism, don't make it too thick, or else you just made a siege cannon. This is like your average destroyer cannon. You can add extra details by having... ooh, I forgot what it was called. Those white, like, protection guards I see on Japanese destroyers, especially like on the later models, like from the Fubukis all the way to the Akizukis, like these. Or you can have it in the traditional flak style, like where your gun is like kind of like that, like the flak 88, just like that. But for now, we will have it in the... I call this like the Japanese gun protection, like that. Now, this is gonna be a pain for those who are drawing on paper, because you're gonna have to repeat this step for numerous times. If you have 3, 2, 1, you're fine. You can do that. But if you have like 4, 5, that's gonna be a pain. It's gonna suck a lot if you're basing your ship off an Atlanta class design, where you gotta do seven of the same turrets, drawing on pencil and paper. That's actually gonna be a pain. But just take your time and like remember how you did it. For those online, you can just duplicate and then just have them on either way. If you're gonna do it for the stern, you're gonna make sure both the turrets are gonna be equal length or as close to equal as you can, and then you just put them wherever. Then you would group these layers, and that is your big battery guns. For anti-aircraft purposes, you're most likely gonna look up some references because most of the AA I look up and draw are kind of, below average. But the basic one I can do is where the magazine is loaded from the top, like a 40mm Boffer. So usually, let's use this as your AA platform. You're gonna draw two almost straight lines. Best if you use ruler. Then you're gonna color in with black a rectangle, or draw out a rectangle. Then make a long line showing the gun barrel, and sometimes you can add a muzzle breaker. Though for simplicity and the way it looks bad, we won't add the muzzle breaker. Then you can add extra details like a little chair, the elevation thing, the thing to help elevate it, a shield mount. But most importantly, you would draw the magazines. You can draw them like that, like a 40mm Boffer, or I've seen people draw them in the magazine that looks like you see on the 20mm Oerlikon. I see them connected to the ground like a chain gun or something like that. I think it was the Gal 30 on the AC-130. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or I've seen people draw literal phalanx close-in weapon systems, which is crazy. And I cannot even draw CWIS that well. But for now, we'll go with the 40mm gun design. Mainly because I think of how cool it is. Sometimes you can draw little shoulder mount things. So your person, it's not in scale, has a shoulder right there while they're manning the gun. And judging from this look alone, it already looks like like an 88 or a 90mm, depending on how big the little Jimmy is over here. I'm judging that's probably maybe 50 to 60mm. I am not sure, I'm just taking a gander. But make sure it's in scale. If you messed up, for those drawing on paper, redraw it, and make sure to use reference. If you're drawing it online though, you got a lot more free will. Then you can draw different calibers too of different designs, but make sure to use the rectangle and long line as a base. And make sure it's thick like this and not something too thin. Like let's say that was my rectangle, like I followed that step, but then I made it too small. I mean, that already kind of looks like a gun barrel for a ship. Or it's just extra protection for a 50 caliber machine gun. But that is something I've seen people messed up on. Make sure it's in scale. And then you can always just duplicate your layers and then put them wherever. You can put as many AA guns as you want, but do keep in mind there's a thing called crew capacity, where you need as much space for your crew as they will try and fight back. let's say this one was like a 120 mil, and these were like 155. And you can just add extra details. I don't usually draw anchors for my ships, but you can always just add a little anchor. I'm not the best at drawing anchors, but you get the general picture. Just draw a random anchor towards the end. And for coloring, if you want to color this for bottom hull, you're going to be using a dark red. Any shade of red is fine, but mainly it's dark red. Or if you want to get a bit daring, I've seen people done green, blues, dark blue, or if you want to go really wilding, which is probably stupid, this purplish pink. That weird design. But I'd recommend red or blue. Dark red or dark blue. Make sure that like this will be dark red, that will be dark red, this area will be dark red. For the propellers, you're gonna have to design them like this. You're gonna have it lighter for the main area, and for the blades, you're gonna do a dark shade of yellow as general design. For the superstructure and all that, it's all up to you. You can make the base like, I usually see them in like dark grays. Hold on. Oh wait, no, that's a hidden layer. My bad. I've seen people do dark grays for their ships. I've seen people done like blues. For mine, sometimes they did purple as the main base. Some going light gray to the point where it's like white. And this correlates to the guns and everything else as well. You can design them in any color you want, but usually they would have to blend in with the environment. So I would recommend gray, any shade of gray, any shade of black, any shade of blue, sometimes green, any shade of white if there is any. I think I said any shade of purple, but I'll repeat it. Any shade of purple, or you can do sometimes, or just any dark color that you have. But that's only if you want to color it. I will say though, for the gun shells, for like exposed mounts, like the AA mounts, make them yellow or like golden for that brass look. Once you're done coloring all that, these are usually white. Barrels can be any color. And what else? Oh right, sometimes you want your ship to have casemate or casemate like guns. Or what I'm trying to say is, you want guns on the side. You can just draw a basic rectangle, have two parallel lines like that. If you want it to face that way, you're gonna make the cylinder barrel go that way. Or if you want it facing the middle, you just draw a circle in the middle. Or if you want it to face the other way, repeat this step, but just backwards. You can draw if you want to add extra mounts like this for AA, just connect it like a box, and then connect it like that, and so on. But that is really up to you. You can add missiles, you can add anti-ship missiles, cruise missiles. I mean, one of my friends wanted to add nuclear capable weapons. Now, a ship like this, most likely not. If we're talking about something that's cruiser size like the Indianapolis, maybe. Or if you're going super advanced like the Kirov class battle cruisers, of course you can do something like that. But this is your basic designing for ships. And once you're done, you put them all in a layer, and then you can just repeat the same process. Or you can make different designs, change their size, add different details, add more guns, add more AA if you want. But yeah, so this is your basic warship design as a tutorial for those who want to get into drawing military vehicles. I will make more in the future, but it's probably gonna be a bit little later because of like scheduling. But yeah, this is the Admiral signing out.